Hi, my name is Michael Massman. I'm a consumer attorney with Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles County, and I'm here with my colleague, Kelsey Atkinson. Kelsey, how are you today?
Good. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing well as well. Thank you. So, we're going to talk to you a little bit about exemptions today. So, first of all, what's an exemption?
Right. So exemptions are one of the number one topics that confuse people when they're working on a bankruptcy petition and going through the bankruptcy process. Basically, what an exemption is something that allows you to keep your property through the bankruptcy proceeding. So, to break that down a little bit, when you file a bankruptcy petition, you have to list all of the property you own. And that is a very broad definition of property. So, you need to list your house, your cars, your bank accounts, your household furnishings, your clothing, your jewelry, medical devices. The list goes on of the types of property that you need to disclose in your bankruptcy petition. You then can use exemptions to be able to keep this property through the bankruptcy. So it's very important to actually understand how exemptions work and make sure you correctly exempt your property in your bankruptcy documents.
All right. So, exemptions are really important. And that's true because a lot of people who come to see us, they actually haven't, that's what they've overlooked because they're confused. They don't know what to do. So, you have a number of handy analogies you use to help people understand like how an exemption functions.
Right. So a couple ways to explain it, right? I like to think of it as, you're holding your property in your hands like you're holding cards in a card game. You need to put all of your cards on the table to show to the bankruptcy trustee. And then exemptions let you take each of those cards back and put them back in your hand. So if you do not claim exemptions, you are leaving your cards on the table for the trustee to take. So that's why exemptions are so important. Another way to think about it, again, is to think of all of your property like a pie. So you put your pie out to the bankruptcy trustee, and you need to use exemptions to take back your pie piece by piece. So again, you don't want to leave anything on the table. So you need to exempt everything so you can keep it. If you don't claim exemptions in your bankruptcy documents, what you're saying to the bankruptcy trustee is that you're okay with the trustee potentially taking and selling that property.
So very important. You gotta list the exemptions or you can lose your property. And qualifying for those exemptions is somewhat challenging because bankruptcy uses federal law and state law. So here in California, if we can apply California exemption. So what does it take to qualify for a California exemption?
So, in order to use California's set of exemptions, you need to have lived in the state of California for at least 2 years. If you do not live in California for the entire 2 year period before filing for bankruptcy, we would encourage you to speak to an attorney about your situation. There's a chance, depending on if you've lived in California for the majority of the last 180 days, that you could still use California's exemptions. But if you don't qualify for California's exemptions, if you recently moved from out of state, then you may actually have to use the prior state set of exemptions. And the exemptions differ between each state. So that's why you would really want to talk to an attorney to understand if California's exemptions apply to you. And if they don't apply to you, which state and what do those states' exemptions look like?
Yeah, like so many things in the legal world, it's more complicated when you poke into it a little bit. So you're welcome to reach out to us and our self-help center if you want help with those. Focusing on the California exemptions, we have two distinct types of exemptions or two distinct sets of exemptions in California.
Right. So California has an extra layer on top of just they have their own set of exemptions, and they actually have two distinct sets of exemptions. So the exemptions are the 703 exemptions or the 704 exemptions. And this name just comes from the number of the statute that they're listed under. So the 703 and 704 exemptions, there's a lot of overlap between them, but they are different, and you may want to use one set of exemptions over the other depending on your situation. The key thing to understand when it comes to picking exemptions is you do have to pick either 703 or 704 exemptions. You are not allowed to mix and match between the 703 and 704 exemptions when you're claiming exempt property on your bankruptcy documents. And this is the same too if you're filing jointly with a spouse. If you're married and you're both filing for bankruptcy, you both need to use either 703 or 704. You can't pick and choose between each person in the marriage.
And so, and we talk about this in conjunction with property because it's really important. A lot of people, without sort of looking into it, think the way to protect property is not listed on your bankruptcy, but we both know that like that's a bad choice. You got to list everything that you own. And so, then you use the exemptions to take back and keep for yourself and protect what you can.
Exactly. It's very important that you list all of your property in your bankruptcy petition. There can be really grave consequences if the trustee finds out that you own property that you did not list in your bankruptcy petition documents, including potentially losing that property. So, you really want to make sure you are as forthcoming and as accurate as possible in your bankruptcy petition. And then make sure that you properly use your exemptions to keep that property.
And again, you're welcome to reach out to us through our website or come down to the Bankruptcy Self-Help Center where we are Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're happy to talk to you about these issues.